So one of the biggest lessons I learned this year is that when I started standing on business, meaning self-worth, self-value, self-respect, it showed up internally first, and then it started to show up outwardly, externally. And when that started to happen, it became easier to clock things that went against all of that, right? It became easier to clock passive aggression. It became easier to clock when somebody was not being truthful. It became easier to clock disrespect. And one of the things that I learned was that, well, I learned a few things. The first thing I learned was because I had learned self-value, self-respect, speaking up for myself, boundaries, things like that, I was still having to learn how to now navigate in a world where I'm like, okay, well, this is how I'm presenting myself. This is who I am. It's like a baby who was just learning how to crawl, and now they're learning how to walk. They're learning how to use their feet. That was one thing. But the second thing I really learned, and it's forever going to stick with me, is I learned that when you start standing on that self-respect piece, and it shows up outwardly, people respond to you very, very differently, especially women. Because one thing I've noticed is that one thing that I've noticed is that self-respect is not something that women, they claim to have it until it's time to actually stand on self-respect. And you notice that when it comes to each other. When you start standing on self-respect and you start clocking things that are disrespectful, or you stick up for yourself, or you speak on your boundaries, or whatever it is, it's going to feel like you're going through some form of humiliation ritual or something, because the way that people, especially women, will spin it and make it seem like it's this foreign concept, or, well, in many cases it is to them, or they'll try to treat you differently for it because they themselves, they don't respect it. They don't respect it because they don't do it themselves. And if they did do it themselves, they would understand why, putting your foot down about a boundary, or having to check somebody after you already, put a boundary down and they disrespected that. So now you have to have that conversation, or whatever it is that you need to do after you have already enforced the boundary and they didn't respect it. It will start to feel like everybody's against you, and like you're the person who just woke up one day and became this big bitch or some shit. What I want to say to the women who might be experiencing that or have experienced that is that it takes a lot of courage and a lot of bravery to stand on your own 2 feet in a world where they expect you to either succumb to groupthink, or have a mob mentality where you need a group of other people to do things with you, or to make yourself feel like there's a level of importance. Or for women, you kind of have to be up under some man to feel big bad, and, oh, you do this, I'm going to call my husband. You do this, I'm going to call my... Because if it's anything that I will forever keep in my heart of hearts, is that when I started really standing on what it was for me, not only was that me having to hold myself accountable, but then when I started to realize how other people kind of pushed back at, well, that's what I want to do. Well, that's what I said. Well, this is my choice. Well, this is my decision. Or, I don't know if I really like the way you said that. I feel like you want to say something else. So are you being honest with me? Right? When I started to really just not play about me, I started to notice how people started to receive me, and folks didn't really like that. So if there was any form of conflict or something, one of the things I noticed was the ways in which women would reduce the situation. So let's say you get into it with somebody, another woman, whatever, and they'll immediately reduce it to, oh, it's because you're jealous. Oh, it's because of this. Oh, it's because of a man. Oh, it's because of this. Whole time it'd be like, nah, it was just disrespectful. And I'm telling you that this is the line and you are now over the line. But you're trying to tell me it's not about that, when I'm telling you it's about the fact that this is something that is disrespectful and it crosses this boundary, and I have a problem with that. And you're telling me, oh no, it's because it's about this. That in itself is disrespectful too. So continue to stand on your own 2 feet. It's going to be very, very hard at first, but like, you get used to it. You get comfortable. You get comfortable recognizing like, oh, y'all really don't stand for shit. Like, y'all let any and everybody just, you got to be solid in yourself before anything. Because if you're not solid within yourself, you're not going to be able to recognize other people who are solid too. And part of why I feel like a lot of women end up struggling with figuring out who's their friend, who's not, who's this, who's that, is because they're not solid in themselves. And you would never have to worry too much about a chick or a man that's not solid if you were solid yourself. But like I said, it takes real courage to be that. So to those of you who are experiencing that, stand on it.